Okay, this is attempt number 2. Welcome to YouTube and all of that. I'm going to see if this works any better. I have green lines now at on the bottom of my um, OBS, which were all red before. So I'm really hoping that that means that we're good to go. So I'm gonna just keep talking for a bit and wait for the the people who were in the stream to rejoin the stream, and hopefully, yes, it Cross says that you can hear me now, which is good. I think what I might have done wrong here. Uh, I think I'd plugged in my phone to like charge it off of my laptop, and I think somehow my laptop or OBS itself was trying to connect to my phone and doing something a bit freaky there. Um, so the like hard reboot seems to have worked. But yeah, all of everything was looking very bad in OBS, and now it all looks like much better. So apologies for that. Um, don't know how much of that story anyone heard. We had a bit of a nightmare trip back from Italy, which started at 4 a.m. in the morning. I then flew back into Bristol, went straight to work, felt like an absolute zombie all day. Hey, Gamer Droids. Basically, none of a story. Okay, I'm going to kind of retell it, but in a short version. We get on a scooter at 4 a.m. Well, 3 of us get on 3 scooters at 4 a.m. We scoot to the airport, taking the route which we've worked out. But after about 20 minutes of scooting, we hit a red zone, which we looked up and it said you can't park in red zones. That's fine. We don't need to park in a red zone. There's a parking space at the airport. We will park at the airport. What it didn't say is you can't scoot through red zones. So your scooter just turns off. It just goes like, pew, and you have no power. And at this point, we're a 45-minute walk from the airport. We've got about an hour max before our like gate closes, maybe less than that. I can't remember. I think an hour max. And we managed to get a taxi after like walking for a bit, then walking back to go and get the taxi from where we'd ordered the taxi from. And the taxi got us there in time, but it was quite stressful. That was the gist of it. I then went straight to work, as did Mark. I think neither of us were human for at least the whole of the day. I felt like absolute. Ugh. Anyway, enough of like the travel back from EMEA. EMEA itself was absolutely incredible. I'm pretty sure like I don't think Droids was there, but a lot of people who I could see in chat were there. So you kind of know, but for anyone who isn't in chat, yeah, it was a bit cursed. Speaking of which, actually, Wild Turtok, you had to leave early to get your plane, and then you found out that your plane was delayed. And then I saw a message later that said you got to the airport and your plane was no longer delayed. Does that mean you missed your plane? Like, what happened? I never found out what the end of that story was. Did you? I assume you got home, but was that okay? Because that sounded a bit stressful. EMEA was absolutely incredible. Etienne did a really great job of organising everything, and I know she had a lot of help from locals and various other people, and the whole team. There were so many like volunteers there who did an incredible job. Harmony B did an amazing job of head judging, and all the judges and everyone organising did fantastic. I really had a great day. Like Saturday, the main event day was, I think, the most fun I've had like of a day playing Netrunner that I can remember. Um, there was I met like so many lovely people. Um, I had like every game was interesting or fun or funny. Um, and it was just incredible. Turtle, we got there within 10 minutes of the supposed closure, but then it was delayed again. So we got free adrenaline sponsored by Ryanair. So we just got free adrenaline. Is that coffee? I assume that's coffee and not like a squirt of someone's actual adrenaline gland, but who knows? Um, yeah, it's or was it like free adrenaline as in you got there? Oh, right, I think I get what you're saying. Like you got there and you found out that you actually only had 10 minutes, so then you were like, "Bam! We've got to go." That's yeah, that's a fun little adrenaline burst. Or maybe you did just get a little squirt of someone's adrenaline gland. I don't know. I don't know like what Ryanair do nowadays. That seems pretty good. Right. Yeah. Generally general travel is like quite stressful. Um, I think everyone should just do all big events in Bristol in future. That helps no one apart from me and a few other people. Speaking of, um, yeah, Cross, I'll get onto that in a second. Speaking of big events in Bristol, if you notice the splash screen, you might have noticed a change. For those of you coming to Bristol Regionals, or Southwest Regionals, I should say, which is in Bristol on the 27th, that's about 20 days away from now. I don't know how many weeks that is. That's like 3 weekends or something. Which is closing in on us. It's going to be great. I had to change venue, kind of kind of last minute. I found out just before I was about to leave for Italy that I could no longer run it in the venue, which was going to be a new venue, which was going to be done in time, and was no longer going to be done in time, um, which was a pretty fun thing to find out. But I have now located and booked a new venue. It is Sparks Department of Imagination. I mean, that's one hell of a name. In the Sparks department store, which is in Bristol town centre. It's about a 1 minute and 15-second walk from the previous venue. So it's in exactly the same place. It's at the same times. It's on the same day. So if anyone's worried, but I've sent emails. I know some people said that the emails went through to their junk folders. So apologies if that happened and you didn't hear immediately. But I think now everyone has had an email explaining the change of venue. But please do get in touch if you've got any questions. It's a better venue. It's so cool. It's got loads of space. There's a nice chill out area. If you're close enough and you want to come, a load of tickets have already sold. Like I think 30 now have sold out of 50 max. I can do 50 max. So get a ticket. I think it's going to be really, really great. The space is awesome. It's really big. It's really light. There's a like little chill out area. They're going to provide an urn, so I can provide free tea and coffee and biscuits. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Cross mentions mitosis, so I should probably mention the corp, which I kind of kept a bit secret. That I played. Can I easily do that? Yeah, we'll do that, but then I want to talk about Kikai's stuff here because it's really amazing, and I think it should get a little bit of a shout out just in case people haven't seen it yet. So the corp which I took is this one here, which I probably need to do that for you to be able to see. Yeah, you should be able to see that now. This was my corp for EMEA Continentals. This is Mitosis Fule. I was very, very close to bringing. Actually, this isn't exactly as I played it because I've made the change which I want to do here, which I'll explain in a second. Um, I was kind of testing out Barfoulé, and I was very close to playing Barfoulé. Um, but I was finding that it was still losing to World Tree Arasana, as most things do. And I just every court which I played felt like a coin flip, and so I decided, well, if I'm going to do a coin flip, then I'm just going to play a mitosis deck, because I find them really fun. And if you're kind of just if you don't have a like really good plan against, like, you can't rely on ice right now because well, we all know, like, you can't rely on ice right now. Ice is very, very cheap to break. You can't rely on assets because everyone's running like 2 copies of Mistbones or a tutable Mistbones like turn 2, and Parisias and things like that. So I didn't think that any of those were solutions, and so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to put out stuff which, if they run, it can be really bad for them. So I played Mitosis Foulé. Now, this has a couple of lines. Obviously, we have the line which, if the runner runs into a double advanced cerebral overwriter, then our ontological dependencies become 2/2 agendas. That's like pretty good, and it's kind of enough of a threat to really make runners worry about like running a double advanced card. I think even more so than like PE or any red deck, because you're like, you run a double advanced Earthquake Cipher, it's like, what is it, like 4 damage? Like, it's not actually that much. It's certainly not like game winning. Whereas like you run a double advanced cerebral overwriter, all of a sudden I'm like fast advancing out 2-point agendas, and also you run another one of them, or you take a couple more like core damage, and all of a sudden you're in like a kind of scary position, where you can die. So that's pretty cool, or like, a coin flip. But then there's other things which this deck can do. So it's not just like, I'm going to put out traps and hope that you run them. And one of the things which this deck has is 3 copies of False Lead. And the reason that I settled on this is that I decided, like about 2 weeks before EMEA, that one of the most broken things that you might be able to do in Netrunner right now might be a combination of False Lead and active policing. Because active policing, let's say we're on threat 3, because if we're going to make a play with this, then we probably are, whether it's the good way or the bad way. Active policing potentially robs 2 clicks from the runner. If you're not familiar with this card, if it says, I actually have to move the text box here. So it's only if the runner stole or trashed a corp card, and then you can install a card and rob a click and pay 2 credits to rob another click. And obviously, if we've got a false lead scored, then that means that we can play an active policing, pop a false lead, and all of a sudden the runner has no turn. Like not a single click, not even a click to click Hannah Wheels to like clicklessly run a server, or to click Hannah Wheels to get a click back. So it kind of takes away all of those options, which is really, really quite cool, and potentially incredibly strong. And so I realized, well, if you can play false lead and active policing, then you can potentially set up a very, very strong turn, and then you kind of lead into it, and then you use this little combo, then you've just got a whole turn to do a setup and then to complete something. So the actual deck which I was playing was on 2 active policing and 0 escape net because of a mistake which I made. It should have been on 1 escape net. I'm just talking through it, actually. We're not going to play it. So the kind of the vague plan here, and again, this is like one of about 3 or 4 ways which this corp can do stuff is you can set up a turn where you mitosis out 2 agendas. Kind of needs to be a 3-2 and a 4-2 or some combination of that. It could be like an ontological dependence and an Ikawa project if you have 2 core damage. So you mitosis out 2 agendas, and then you play active policing, robbing 2 clicks, and then you pop a false lead on the runner's turn. And then next turn, you score out both agendas. And that did not happen on the day, and that's fine because it's like it's just one thing which the deck can do, but the potential for that obviously like dies to Hermes, etc. But it's potentially really, really, really strong. So the other ways which this deck just wins is I just mitosis out agendas. If you mitosis 2 agendas on the board, the chances that the runner's actually going to run them, like it's all about reading the runner essentially. Like you decide whether they're gonna run your stuff or not, and whether you should be doing like 1 agenda and a trap, or whether you should be doing like a cerebral and an NGO, or whether you just go balls out and you do 2 agendas. And I did that particularly in my early games, my first 3 games, which were wins. All of them were involving incredibly like bold, I'm just going to mitosis out 2 agendas onto the board, and you'll probably not run either of them. And they didn't. One time I mitosised out a luminal and something else, I can't remember. And then the next turn I scored the luminal, corporate hospitality, and mitosis back into hand, and then mitosis again. And the corporate hospitalities here are amazing because this deck works around like a couple of really key cards, and so bringing them back into hand is very, very important. Let's talk about another thing that this deck does, and that is plays NAPD Cordon. NAPD Cordon is a pretty cool card. This is the way to punish the runners who decide to just go really, really poor, assuming that they're not playing Infinite Imp, which we'll get onto a bit. So if you mitosis out, say, 2 agendas, and you play an NAPD Cordon, all of a sudden those agendas cost 8 credits to steal, 10 credits if you're going to count in like the fact that you also probably want to play a click and 2 credits to dodge the Fule tax. So can you steal one of them? Maybe. Can you steal both of them? That's 20 credits. So you can kind of do this. You can also do the like, I'm going to mitosis out 2 things, only one of them's an agenda. And you know, like maybe you've got the money to do it, but probably only if you play like a trick shot or an overclock or something like that. And now you have to pick the right one. So like NAPD Cordon won me several games on the day. It's a really, really good card. I would play more sprints if I could, because there was a game, I think game 3, I've got my notes here. I think it was against Turtok, if I'm correct, who took core damage early. No, it was round 2. It was round 2. It's against Sasha. I got them to 3 core damage very, very early, and then couldn't for the life of me find my ontological dependencies. I played sprint like 7 times, I think. At least 5, maybe 7. I spin doctored back sprints to play more sprints to find the sodding ontologicals so that I could score them out. And like it took forever just to find them, even though I was like, I should be super ahead here. Which was interesting. So sprint was really, really good. And then the one change which I would make, there were 2 games which I lost, and I lost because of what's potentially a bad matchup. One of those is playing against Lat with like 5 simul chips. very, very tricky when they have like clot and 5 symbol chips, more importantly, because your kind of like your ontological dependence lines become very, very tricky. And lat has like a ton of like they don't need to run their like deep dive lat. They don't really need to run stuff, so they can just build up money. And so I can't really like NAPD cordon them out like of money. And if I just let them get 2 set up, then they'll eventually deep dive. And that's, even though that's harder against Fule, if they find like the ontos, then we're in trouble. And they also have like click gain ability. So that was going to be really, really hard. What I needed was the scape net, which I was meant to put into my deck, and I forgot to. And this can deal with the symbol chips, and not just deal with them, but remove them from the game, which is incredibly powerful. The other matchup, which was really hard, but actually came down to the finest of lines. It was round 6. I was against Viorete, who's from Sweden. Super, super nice guy. We played a 2-for-1. He rolled runner, or the judge rolled runner, so he got to play his Lu deck. Now, his Lu deck, if you have played against him online, I think him and someone else is on something very, very similar. It's Lu with 2 Friday chips, infinite imps. It like plays no money. Like I don't know if he had more than like 2 credits. Yeah, credits at Hotmail was the other person on it. I don't know if he had about 2 credits for most of the entire game, which normally you'll be like, well, NAPD Cordon is sick here, but with Infinite Imp, that's very, very hard to deal with. And I don't have like Mavirus to do anything really sneaky to stop the Infinite Imp. So, and he also has Docklands and Bankar, and it was running centrals. He was running HQ like every turn and trashing 2 things from HQ. It was pretty hard to keep up, but the game went completely to time, and on the final turn I could I think I mitosised out 2 agendas, and I played an NAPD Cordon, knowing that he doesn't have enough money. I'm on 4 points, he's on 2. There was only about 1 point in the bin. NAPD, he has like very, very little money, so NAPD Cordon is protecting like every agenda right now from being stolen. Time's called, and he has the line to trash every card in R&D with like recurring imps with symbol chips and things like that. He was on an Eru as well, very, very spicy. But like that game, basically, like that went right down to the absolute wire, where I ended up with no cards in deck. I don't know if he had any cards left either. Like we'd both ground each other right out in this like 65-minute long game. But if I was playing Escape Net, at no point in this game did he have 7 credits. Ever. This removes Friday Chip from the game, and then I can just corporate hospitality it back and do it again, and he has 2 Friday Chips. And if I had this Escape Net, then I win that matchup every single time, assuming that he doesn't manage to trash it and every single piece of recursion from the deck before I find it. Because his entire engine runs on the Friday Chip. Like, he's got some contaminates, he can like restart his engine a bit with that, but and some recursion, but without like the Friday Chips to really keep it going, I'd have had that game. So Escape Net's gone back in. The active policing was cool, but it's like it wasn't quite good enough. I didn't get the super high of it, so I've dropped to 1 active policing. I was on 2. But that was my corp deck. It was a lot of fun. everyone had fun playing this. I must say that I went into EMEA with this almost completely untested. I played it against like some of the tie. I think I played like 3 games against tiebreakers. Decided it was good enough. Played a couple of games on JNet Casuals. One of which was against Friedan from EMEA. So he was the only person. Like when he found out about us playing Fule, and he found out that I wasn't just on Bar Fule, he was like, "I think I know what you might be on." I didn't end up facing any of the EMEA crew, but on the day, but yeah, he was like the only person who really had a good idea outside of the tiebreakers, who knew even if they disagreed with me. But it was fun. Right, very quickly, or not very quickly, because I actually want to go through this. If you're not familiar with the Surveyor, this is Kikai's like blog posts, I guess. I don't know how he'd best. I think you'd describe them as blog posts. I hope that's not a, that's what they are, right? I don't know if there's a better way of describing them, but it's like he's been doing these amazing write-ups for like where the meta is at various points. He started, yeah, I think it seems accurate, right? Started fairly recently, like a few months ago, I think, maybe even less than that. We can find out how far back we go. Yeah, just back as far as May. The end of May was when he started. And these have been really interesting. Like there's been some really good analysis, but in particular, I think his last 2 entries are fantastic. Really worth going to see. I will drop the. You can go here. There we go. I think that should put it up into the chat. tracex.substack.com/archive. Hopefully, should bring it up. Or like hit me up. I'll put a link in the show notes as well. His analysis of EMEA is really fantastic. This goes through EMEA with really nice like breakdowns in just like sort of fairly simple to read pie charts and bar charts, which he's just kind of put together, and it's really great to just have something that's very simple to pass and get a good idea of what the meta was like. Here we see the Corp like quite clearly sort of fairly HB favored, the runner with a lot of shapers, or a dominance of shaper, and then a really nice breakdown on win rates and conversion rates into the cut, with shaper doing really well, which makes me happy and makes the game sad, apparently, which might be true. He talks about the player write-ups. I'll get to in a second because they are fantastic. We've got a really nice spread of like actual ID win rates, with Asmari. I'm sure we've seen this Asmari list by now. This is the sort of the punitive Neurospike, not Neurospike, sorry, Jupster grid version, which pretty much almost all of EA Sports are on, and it's very mean. The fact that 27% of 15 kit players converted into the cut makes me incredibly happy. I'm a huge kit fan, always will be. The fact that kit's doing well just warms the cockles of my heart, if that's a thing. And then like a really nice breakdown of top cut, and it's just I think this is really fantastic to go through. I think it's very well written without it getting into sort of too much depth. It just tells you like quite simply pointing out a few things which these are pretty good, and without you having to like really delve into the numbers. Like he just pulls it out for you here. The 8 Asmari players reached a 76% win rate. That's really, really clear in terms of the fact that the Asmari deck was good, and it was. And then a little rundown here of some like surprise meta breaker decks with the Hyperbaric kit, which is deck list of the week at the moment. Shout out to Rahi for that, because it turns out Trick Shot's busted, and it turns out that when you can do other things with Trick Shot, it's even more busted. And I think Rahi like going, well, if you're not going to res any ice on like R&D, then I'm going to use my Trick Shot credits just to boost my my Hyperbaric to like ridiculous numbers. Seems very, very mean. And obviously a little talk about their punitive Asmari deck. And then he also did this fantastic write-up of the intercontinental players, which is really, really fascinating. Hello, TMKF Netrunner. How are you doing tonight or today? I really, really like this. It's got a really nice kind of rundown, and I like little kind of snippets. I like to be able to just look through here and go, here's some of the things that they won, and this is what they like to do. They like to play engine decks and rush corps. Very, very simple. Obviously there's more of a lineup here, but it's all pretty cool. You did hear Punitive Asmari. It was one of the big decks from EMEA. I'll bring it up in a second. It is incredibly mean. It goes stupidly fast. I played a couple of games with it in Meat Space on Wednesday, and the first game was like turn 4, Gypstad Grid kill. The next game was like turn 6, punitive death. It's kind of nuts. But I think this is really, really, really great write-up, and I highly suggest you go and check out Kiko stuff. I think it's fantastic. With Punitive Asmari in mind, also Rowan, aka Cobra Bubbles, put out this blog post, I think today. I think it came out earlier today, which kind of breaks down the EMEA decks a little bit. Again, mentioning like Kit being pretty strong, Ob doing really, really well after everyone said that Ob was dead. Oh, of course you're not, yay. What a surprise. And then it lists the decks. And I thought this is the best place for us just to quickly go through, because there's some fantastic stuff in here. I'm sure you've seen these, but the things which really, really interest me. Obviously, Tuno's Ob deck. This is just insane. Watching it play this deck in the finals was just an absolute masterpiece. Hey, when's gone? How you doing today? The aggression which Tuno plays this deck with is staggering. Like, just you see it extract. I guess it must have been something that was free cost. So I don't think it was even extract. I think just pops him a virus, and you're like, oh, it's probably getting Marilyn or something, so that it's got some money ticking up. No, it's going to be a Hollow Man and something in the server and a piece of ice, and then just going to say like, you better go and be able to get that. Pretty kind of crazy. I definitely want to play some of this deck. I believe that everyone's playing this deck on JNet at the moment, so we'll see how that goes. Ryan Bantwins, I had the pleasure of commentating on 2 of his games. Oh, it was Extract Afshar. Got ya. Thanks, Donald. Obviously, you'd know that. I was talking finals. So I got to see this Ob deck do its thing twice. Once to a deck which I have described as unkillable, and he killed it. So I was pretty amazed by this. And I mean, he played it incredibly well. He played to his outs in what did look at many times like an unwinnable matchup, which is absolutely nuts. Um, so yeah, so that's in like super interesting to me. His lat deck is kind of bizarre. I mean, I love it. It's bizarre, like a single Hermes, like yeah, and then Cataloger and Mad Dash seems good, especially when people are running around playing 40 card Mari. Uh, Augustus was being Augustus. Obviously, it's tried and true. He top cuts with Ag Infusion. Um, I think he's the best Ag Infusion player there is, and that's I mean, there's been like people who have been known as Ag Infusion players. I think he has rewritten the Ag Infusion way of things. Uh, Kikai Steve is incredible. Obviously, it's Bankar Steve based on Bridgman's kind of version that he was playing. Kikai is playing Blue Cleaver, I believe he describes Tremolo as, which is absolutely nuts. But kind of makes sense because he has Zenith Chip and Wake and Panweave. And once you've got those down, all of a sudden you're breaking barriers for like potentially nothing, which seems pretty good. Um, I think he's also on Paragon, which is like really wild, but I kind of really dig in this particular deck because it's really very draw order dependent. Like you want to have the right things in hand when you're running with Bankar and not the wrong things in hand, more importantly. So I think that's cool as strong as Hermes is. Like this deck wants to put on a load of pressure and run your ice, and if you're on Hermes, you kind of don't. Only person I can think of who is in that same Ag Infusion tier is Fire RL. Yeah, that's actually true. They have been very very good on Ag Infusion. Yeah, Soccer doesn't count. Soccer does not count as an ag fiend because he can literally pick up almost any deck and like he's an ag fiend, but he's also an R plus fiend and a BTL fiend, and you find me a deck which Soccer doesn't just rock up with, and a Asa like doesn't count. Koga with the hot crim takes that Hermes is overrated. Might be. Might be. I mean, how many Hermes in the top cut? I guess technically is the only person that's on Hermes. Is it Ryan Bantwins on a single? No, there's a deep dive shaper down here that's on Hermes, definitely for sure. Cobra Bubbles. So we didn't talk about it on Kikai's list, but Cobra was obviously on this Asmari list. And I think what's really interesting about the Asmari list and what kind of makes sense is that the same things happened that happened with Jinteki, right? Jinteki lost their incredibly powerful defensive 5-3 agenda, Obokata Protocol, which was a very powerful agenda but didn't work with punitive. As much as you kind of wanted it to work with punitive because you're like, haha, if you steal this, you won't have enough cards in hand and then I can punitive you. You could never dump it into archives and say, like, come and get this, because they'd just go, no. I'll leave it there. I'll come back and get it later. Or I'll leave it there and I'll mad dash it later, even better. And so you kind of didn't see any punitive Jinteki for a long time. And maybe it was a money thing as well, almost definitely. But Obokata goes away, and so people are like, right, well, we've got to play other things which aren't Obokata. So all of a sudden they're like, oh, we could play bacterial programming. Or it takes someone like Seb K to be like, you know what you can do with bacterial programming if you put it in the bin. And then that led to the fact that, well, it draws 7 cards, so now we can play YDL, and that sorts out the money issue. And then obviously that ties in with Regenesis and everything like that. But it took Overcarter going, which was this like very, very powerful but incredibly like slow paced agenda, because the corp didn't want to score it, the runner didn't want to steal it, so it just hung around until it was either like a game winning point or like the runner had ground themselves out of cards, which meant that you had to go through a whole deck. So like it's not doing anything, right? And it doesn't work with punitive, as we've discussed. Whereas as soon as they can't play Overcarter, they're like, oh, well, now, like, if they steal a 5/3, they have to, if they touch 5/3, they have to steal it. So the best way to protect against that, especially if you're a corp which cares about, like, cards in hand, then punitive becomes a good way. Now, MBN, similar but different, and Wentagon's got a reason why it's different. So, firstly, Bologna, runner didn't want to steal it. However, the corp did want to score it. So it's at least a bit more forward tempo than Obo in terms of the fact that a corp would happily like push out a Bologna, because if they score it, it's good for them. They get all the money back. But it did still slow down the game, and Bologna, again, it's like one of those cards which you think, oh, that'd be incredible with punitive, because if you steal that, you won't have the money to survive a punitive. But again, you can just say, well, I'm not going to steal it, especially if it's in archives. I'm going to leave it there. And when Bologna goes, one of the best ways of protecting like 5/3s is to be like, well, I'm not going to protect them, but if you steal them, you're going to die. And I think it's like an amazing deck for that reason. And I'm a little gutted because I was super hard on the fact that Neurospike was better than Jupstad Grid. And I'm coming around to various reasons why that isn't correct anymore. But also the fact that this deck really didn't work as well once the Bolognas went, in terms of, not of, obviously in terms of a punitive plan, but the original, like, I'm just gonna like spike you, like play Seamless Launch and play a Neurospike. I have now played a bit with Jupstad Grid, and I think it is better than Neurospike, and I was hard team Neurospike for a long time, but there's less chance for you to react to Jupstad Grid, which I just don't think I really benefited from before. If you score out a re-education, there's a chance for the corp to pop a stone chip then, which you don't have with Jupstad. You would have to pop it before they actually score the Neurospike. So I'm now on Team Jupstad, and obviously the best thing about Asmara is it has a ton of money. What do you do with a ton of money when you're playing like 5/3 agendas? You just punitive them if they touch an agenda at the wrong time. And I think really, really good, especially when you've got decks like World Tree Woo, who tends to be pretty poor in the first couple of turns, tends to want to make some runs, kind of has to make runs, and you can just potentially punitive them like turn 1 or 2. Hey Kiko, how you doing? Yes, you got here just in time. I've just been talking about your surveyor posts and how fantastic they are. So, Asmari, very mean, super interesting. Someone probably needs to start a crowdfunder for Rowan. He obviously can't afford enough sleeves for his decks. Hence the like minimum number of cards. So if we could just get a bit of a crowdfunder going, get the EA guys like a bit of cash. They obviously need to buy some more sleeves, and they just can't afford them. So that would be good. Bridgman, playing a very Bridgman RH, but his lat is spicy as hell. In terms of the fact that he's also noticed that Entangler is a busted ass card, but you can just play it in lat. He's on 2 revolver, and he's on a couple Asian, and then kind of Aesop's engine, which is like pretty. I mean, like really, really great. Oh yeah, I'll get to that, John. So, uh, test running. I chatted to test running, but I haven't actually looked at his deck yet. The best thing I like about it is 2 Tranquility Grid in Ob. Because I was playing Tranquility Grid, just a single one in Ob, like a Rush Ob last year, and I thought it was incredible. And then Rush Ob just felt like it fell off, but test running disagrees and has proof that you can really get there with it. 2 Thimble Rig as well. 2 Thimble Rig, 2 Trank home grid. Beautiful. Love it. Gia team tiebreakers on this spicy ass PD disc. No, I'm lying. It's super vanilla. And rocking the Arasana, the World Tree Arasana. Rahi we have mentioned, but this kit list is just poetic. 3 copies of Hyperbaric, so you can just install it from hand. They're also on rigging up, so you can get an extra counter there. You then like trick shot into R&D to charge it up. You can charge it up with mantles. You can charge it up with mantles on the off turn, so that you can power your twinning like extra fast. And any like this is really cool. And then because you're on 3 copies of mantle, you can also play After Image, which you probably rarely need to use, but is like a bonkers cheap way to break a bunch of ice. And it deals with like anything particularly nasty, like if you have to deal with like Stavka Hafran or anything like that. Then we have Not Yeti, also of Team Extremely Average Sports, playing extremely average decks. Jonold, obviously playing Ob because it's Jonold, and World Tree Arasana. I'm gonna pronounce Quercia's name wrong. Hey Sengrin, how you doing? I'm good. I'm kind of just doing a quick recap of EMEA and then maybe playing some Anikam Arasana. I might need your input on it. Also, I have a question for you about top cuts, but that's not for the stream. I'll Discord you or something. So here we had like Deep Dive Sable doing its thing, and just like good old Lady Killer outfit, like still good apparently. Yeah, this is like kind of wild to me because this deck should like lose to everything, right? Everyone said like it's terrible into Arasana, and it's kind of bad into a load of stuff, and yet it's done really well. I think the one cheeky snare that's going to win you games, and it is still a mean deck. If you come up against someone who can't deal with a data loop, then you can get far. Plus, I think data loop is actually like a kind of good ice. It slows people down. You do see a Mackler as well. This made top cut with a copy of Mackler as its breaker. So our Crim, this is actually wild. I'm just putting this together in my head. Kakas Lab. There's 2 Crims in the cut, right? I think, because here we have Hashiko. Snoobs was on Kit. I'll talk about Snoobs in a second. James was on Kit. Golden Witch was on Kit. So we had 2 Crims, 1 Sable, 1 Steve, and the 2 fractors that we have between the 2 of them is Tremolo and Mackler, who called it. 2 seconds while I catch up on I definitely neglected to mention in my write-up that I was channeling my inner Ysengrin with Obari. Very, very true. Um, James Harrison, former linebackers for the Steelers? Maybe. Quercia has been on hiatus for at least 2 years. Showed up to our meta 1 month ago again and just rocked it. I was going to say, this is not a name that I recognise, so that might be why. Um, so that's incredible. I mean, we've got Quercia just turning back up and killing it, and that maybe kind of makes these decks make sense because this outfit deck is like you can pick it up and play it, and you can play it well if you're like just an aggressive player. Um, Another Crim left just out of the top cut, had no fractor. Oh, double turtle, double dogs, nice. And then I've got to give a shout out to Snoobs. This is Sid from not quite my meta because I'm Bristol, but Cheltenham, which is like about 45 minutes away. Sid's been playing about 9 months or something, like maybe a year. I remember him turning up to like um like a CO which I ran about a year ago. Him and Alex, who travelled together to this tournament and like travelled together. Like they're basically the meta. They're the Cheltenham meta, just the two of them. They just play against each other, and then they come down and like rock the Bristol COs and things like that. Barely been playing. He's a really, really lovely guy. He's got an incredible like attitude. He was smiling the entire weekend, and not surprising really because he absolutely rocked it, making top cut at EMEA. So big shout out to Sid. Um, so they're the like like I can't talk about every deck. They're unfortunately, well, or maybe fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it. But yeah, it's like I think there's some super interesting stuff here. Probably around the strength of PD without it's right. This is about the outfit deck. It's probably around the strength of PD without being as pick up and play. But a lot of runners don't have a good answer for Archer. No, this is about Ob. It's for Archer, so it has some really lopsided matchups. Got you. Yeah, basically, Jonald is talking about his Ob deck here. This is his version. I should know the differences between his and Tuno's, but I can't without looking them up. I know Tuno was on one Audacity, not on a Zato. It's Donald. It has to be about Ob. Yeah, fair. And I think Tuno was on free Asief, no slash and burn. And yeah, essentially this deck kind of lives and breathes by the idea of can you get through an archer turn 2 or turn 3 or not? Because if you can't, then it's just gonna like score out in the server faster than you can deal with it. It can do some nutty quick scoring using like Hearts and Minds, Hollow Man. All of these allow it to like never advance 5/3s or score a 3/2 whilst also putting a powers that be on the board and maybe a Tucana on the board and installing 3 things off a score. Kind of nuts. And then the additional power that you have with Asief Protocol to trash something that's 2 cost, bring a powers that be out of your deck with Ob, then like the agenda score happens, so then you powers that be something back onto the board, maybe just the thing that you literally just trashed, like maybe you get your Marilyn back in the in a server so that you can extract it next turn. Like it's kind of nuts. I'm definitely going to be probably jamming a bunch of this and similar versions of this deck because I just want to get my head around it. It looks fun as hell. all these YOLO board commit decks would never survive in my pre-apocalypse rotation utopia. Yeah, I mean, like since APOC has gone, it's made some like, you know, if you had APOC now, or you had a similar kind of thing to APOC right now, like you've got to wonder about some of these decks. Like, does PD work if APOC's around? Was PD and APOC around at the same time? They must have been, right? Like, what did PD do against APOC? Um, but like, you know, the Asalists and the Oblists and things like that. Oh, there we go. When's gone? Jonathan's got your answer. Can APOC get around Archer / border control R&D? Can if it's playing inside job. You know, or just window of opportunity. Like window of opportunity is probably pretty disgusting in Crim APOC decks, I would imagine. Or just no, you probably can't like Bankar. Maybe you could Bankar if you had blades, if you were trying to APOC as well. It's quite a lot. You might just be able to botulus it, to be honest, Donald. You only need to break the end of run. Like, you just botulus the Archer. APOC was a major thing for like 2 years with PD. There we go. Yeah. I can't even think how those games go. I guess PD was just going faster, right? It just, yeah. Okay, and it played a bit more ice. I guess also like you needed less money back then because that was PD in its days of like all of my 4-2s are absolutely busted. And if you ever run the bin, I gain 8 credits. Like, yeah. Oh yeah, and it had GFI, so you can't even like, yeah. So you also had to find 4 agendas, and I guess it's like PD always has the seamless in hand. So you're like, you APOC'd me. I'm just going to install a 4-2 and a gatekeeper. Do you have another APOC? Yeah. Okay. Fine. PD good. Okay, I probably need to do some just like a couple of quick shout outs because there were so many nice people who I met, but in particular to my players. So massive shout out to Mr. Pele, who I played in the first round. A reminder to always listen out for when time is called. Because we caused the judges a massive headache. Round 1, just straight from the start. Round 1, end of time. Neither of us heard hear time called. Caused a massive issue. Like, oh dear. I think I played a lot of Italians because then I played Sasha from Italy. Really, really nice. They were on Thule, and we had a hilarious game where I was playing World Tree Arasana into their like Bath Thule. And I do a bit of setup turn 1. I get a world tree down, blah blah blah. They had 3 cards out on board. I'm not touching them. They res a Rashida and they res a Gaslight, and I thought it was weird that they were resing a Gaslight at this point because why are you showing me where that is and what to get it? And they asked me how many credits I have, which is a terrifying prospect, and I say I have 4 credits. And then they ask me how many cards are in my hand, which is another terrifying thing to ask. They then pop the Rashida. They draw into the public trail with the Rashida, the one-of public trail, and then they can gaslight for the end of the line and kill me. Turn 2, instant, bam, gone. Very, very funny. It does happen. Andre's been saying on stream that the way to deal with World Tree Arasana is just to public trail end of the line them like turn 2. Turns out he's correct. Listen to Andre. He's done his research. Game 3 was against the Wild Turtok. Absolute pleasure to play again. We played at Worlds last year. I'm looking at my notes here. Turn 1, I had a turn 1 tree, and I burned. He was on PD. I burned HQ, got a tree trigger, put an ADT on the top of R&D and went and stole it, and then just like that was like such a turn one like killer turn. Round 4, I played against Erminist from the UK, from Bradford, also on PD. I seem to be like a PD magnet. I think I played against, like, it was like a lot of PD. He was the one playing lat with a ton of cymbal chips. Couldn't do it. Couldn't beat it. And then round 5, I had the absolute pleasure of being matched with Perklemus, who I'd never met before. I met Mar, but not Perklemus himself. And he found out that I was playing Foulet, said he didn't want to play against Foulet, so asked if I wanted to ID and go and get ice cream instead. And at that point, you've probably heard by now, it was pretty flipping hot in this venue, and I decided that a nice walk to go and get some ice cream and to have a chat was actually sounding really nice. And I said, I'll do that as long as we can come back and play a friendly game, just the other side, like the PD, because he was on PD, because I'm a PD magnet, versus World Tree Arasana. And we actually had it was one of the funnest games of the whole day, maybe because there was like no stakes involved, so there was a lot of oversharing on both sides, probably way more oversharing on my side than I should have. I actually had the win, and I told him I had the win, and then I decided that he wouldn't have put the ice, which he scored 4 points very early, jammed what was clearly an Ikawa. I shooted out a Light the Fire with World Tree, and then lit the fire his remote, hoping that the derezzed ice was like one of only 2 pieces of ice which I could get through, which it exactly was. Credit perfect to do that. Ikawa in the bin, but no credits, no clicks left. So then next turn, he doesn't have a Spin Doctor in hand, so he like draws, takes credit, puts a piece of ice on R&D. I've got an Overclock and Muse in hand, and I then go through my head of all the ice which he could have put on R&D, and I'm assuming at this point that he's practiced loads against World Tree Arasana, forgetting that he's not in tiebreakers. So I'm like, well, you wouldn't put a drafter there because you always just assume that Arasana can get through a drafter, right? Or a gatekeeper. Like, these are fairly easy for them to deal with. And I could. I had Overclock, I had Muse in hand. I could have done like click for a credit, Overclock, and I'm through. And I talked myself out of it. I was like, no, it must be like an MIC or a Bran or something which I can't get through. So I basically told him everything that I couldn't do. And the next turn, he like draws, clicks for credit, and puts another piece of ice there. And I was like, that was a drafter, wasn't it? It was a draft. I could have won that game. In the end, I lost it because he found a spin the next turn, got the Ikawa back, pushed the Ikawa. I actually had a winning line we worked out afterwards, but by like just barreling through a drafter on the R&D a couple of times, but it didn't happen. And I'm not surprised he was bragging about the ice cream because it was sick. It was very good ice cream. I then played against Viorete, which I've already mentioned, which was 2-for-1. And then my final game of the day was against Kroos, who's almost always in stream chat. So it was really, really lovely to get to play against you. And we played Mitosis deck versus Mitosis deck, and neither of our Mitosis decks won. It turns out that like Mitosis players know what Mitosis plays look like. Right. We had a lot of fun on those matches, Kroos. Absolutely. I think like by then, you know, like there's no pressure at that point. We're playing for fun. I feel like it was maybe not quite as hot anymore as well. But yeah, it was a hell of a lot of fun. Somewhere here, I have my Aricam deck. Now this, I've been having a lot of fun with. I have promised my... Oh, sorry, was Kroos the one with the sick Tucana alt arts? Yes, I think he was, and he gave me some. So this is a deck which I built on stream. Um, sorry, I'm missing something in chat here. This was my first game against World Tree Ari. I was struggling hard to make Ice Matter. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's very hard to make Ice Matter against World Tree Arisana. It's a good question when it's gone, but I'll get to that in a second. So, this is a deck which I built on stream, on a stream which didn't work, or it didn't work. It didn't go to YouTube. So I ended up, and like I was getting like JNet wasn't playing ball that day. It was just like not going to plan, so I gave up on the stream that day. But I've been kind of toying around with it, and I've been having a lot of fun. So it's mainly a deck because I wanted to play Spree. And this card, every time I play this card, this feels like the most buck wild card out there. It's probably the most fun card which people aren't playing, and some people are playing, obviously. It like I love my shape of bullshit. Everyone knows I love my shape of bullshit. I love doing things at like instant speed windows. But I'm usually kind of like, I can probably only do like one thing at an instant speed window. Spree is like, no, I'm just going to do like a ton of things, especially in Arasana, where I might even install something from my hand and then move it around and then do a bunch of like nonsense. And this card feels absolutely incredible. I don't think it's a free of even in this deck, because like it's kind of like I tend to use this to make either super powerful plays on a remote or to set up a deep dive turn. And that's kind of what this deck is doing. It's just trying to deep dive really, really quickly, which you could ask the question, why the hell are you not on free deep dives? And I can't answer that question in a sensible way. And in fact, I'm probably going to change it right now, because I did like one game with this on JNet Casuals the other day, and I just couldn't draw a deep dive for the love nor money of me. Spree plus Kaiban is kind of overclock. Yeah, kind of. I haven't actually got Kaiban in here, but I've got very little MU, so that's why. So I'm probably going to need to find a cut somewhere here. Spree is overclock for Ari. In my opinion, it should be the benchmark of how aligned the Ari card pool is. Interesting. So, when I built this deck, it was kind of built around the fact that I wanted to just play Hot Pursuit. Hot Pursuit is like a ton of money, and it's a run on HQ, which is one of the things that we have to do when we make deep dives. And I'm going to play no resources, so I can just float the tag, and nothing ever bad happens to us if we float a tag. Right? That's the philosophy anyway. And then we can play like Trick Shot, which gets us into R&D, potentially also checking the remote, and still like deep dive. Right? So that's like a ton of money. We're playing like we're playing I was going to say a lot of Trojans, but we're actually kind of not. So we're playing Entangler because it's busted. We're playing Pikachu because we're on deep dive, so we want like click abilities. We're playing Slap Vandal because it's pretty much the best like in faction like breaker version we have. It's pretty close to Arizon's list from NAPC Boston, right? I think his was on Slap Vandals and Poison Vials, which might be better. Like that's maybe a better use of like Spree, because you can kind of wherever you Spree, you can just Slap Vandal, Poison Violet, done. But Wentgon asked, or someone asked, someone asked about why this has got a Botulus instead of a second Fasalin. The main reason is barriers. Barriers are a bit of a problem for this deck, especially big ass barriers like Feroses and things like that. Because our only like Fractor is a propeller, like nothing else really makes sense in here. The whole idea of the deck is the Breaker Suite is that it's very, very fluid. And so like propeller makes like a lot more sense than anything else. The Unity is like questionable. Also, where the hell is my Eka? I've only just realized that it doesn't have an Eka, which means it doesn't have a way of breaking. It doesn't have a way of breaking sentries apart from Fasadum. No, it's got a revolver, hasn't it? Now, should this be an Eka? Maybe, because we're on 3 copies of Muse. And as Wentagon says, 3 copies of Muse seems excessive, and it does. And maybe we'll play 2. But whenever I've had a Muse in hand, I've felt incredibly safe to just run anywhere. But maybe like 2 Muse, 3 single chips, that seems like pretty good. It's Cursor. Hello, Pete. I got to meet Pete Cursor at EMEA, another member of Extremely Average Sports. Welcome to the stream. So other than that, we kind of need to work out, like, it needs a tiny bit more draw. It's on Anicam. Maybe it should be on free Anicam. It should probably be on free Anicam. Let's go free Anicam. It also like saves us against some kills. You feel like an Eka and a Botulus is better than Revolver. I mean, we already have one Botulus. I think Eka might be the better option. That then gives us free influence to play around with, which might just be another Entangler, right? Like 2 Entangler. The one thing about 2 Entangler is you kind of don't want to put both Entangler out at the same time, because then like Purge City. Also, Kakasklab asked about Compile, and Compile plus Muse is very, very sick and does work with this deck very well. But like finding slots is tricky. Botulus over Revolver means less Crim influence, so must be bad. That's the true Koga coming through there. We're gonna try dropping to 2 Muse. I'm kind of tempted to drop to 1 SMC and 3 Muse though. Which is what I might do. The Muses have felt better than the SMCs most times, and we can, in a pinch, Muse for SMC. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go 3 Muse, 1 SMC, and cut a card from somewhere. Now, the other option, if we don't want to do... Yeah, Hush is a notably good card, and I clearly don't have the influence for it, assuming I stay on Revolver. The other thing we could do with this Hop Shoot influence would be play Bravado. Now, is that better? Maybe. The thing is with Hot Pursuit is it's really good against decks that don't like ice HQ very very quick. Hot Pursuit is just a ton of money. And we kind of don't care about floating the tags. The reason that we're actually on free Hop Shoot is that I originally built this deck with Bing in mind, a player from APAC, who I shouldn't be building decks for because they're a deck builder first and foremost, and whatever. But they wanted an idea for an aggressive shaper, and they love Hot Pursuit. Jeff saying the card is bad. Are we just, if I just swap this for Bravado, is that better? Like, is that what we're doing? Have anyone ever run 2 centrals with 1 trick shot using the hot tech card Sleepstream? No, I did mention it. I think when trick shot was first leaked. It's a hell of a thing to be able to do. I think it's so. I think we just put bravado in, right? And then like every time I play this, I end up playing up against R plus as well. Um, it's just so much money on a card. Right, let's play two bravado. And yes, I know Hush is so. There is also another reason that I'm not on Hush, which is MU. Um, like I have to trash a lot of stuff here. Now the problem is now we're on bravado. I want to play resources. I could play like Nuka or a Nuka. Maybe we just still don't, so that I just still don't care. Like we could play. It's genuinely not worth it. I was going to say we could play UAV, but I have literally two things which we can bring back to hand, so that's totally not worth it. We could play Kaya to like put some pressure on. Then you play Bravado and face just Iceland decks. Yes, so that is my point. Like we're already quite good against like decks with ice because we're Arasana. What we're not good against are like low ice decks. Something like Barthule, and we're playing Bravado. We're going to feel really, really sad. I guess we're going to feel really sad actually if we play Hot Pursuit against them anyway. So maybe that's fine. Miss Bones. Nah, it's tech card. We're not going to do that. We're going to win off deep dives before that happens. The only other issue that we have, which I did realise, yeah, I'm gonna feel sad anyway. The only other issue is if they don't put ice or like ice on centrals, then we do have an issue with gaining extra clicks, and we're obviously not playing like 2 core damage, get an extra click. Like we're not, even I'm not that mad. And our only other real option is like in faction is to play like up here, and we don't have the MU for that, and it's not that very good. So we're just gonna hope that we get there. Like we probably only need to land one like real deep dive. But this is probably fine. We'll see if I like regret dropping the hot pursuits. Because it is a good card. Can you add Rosetta 2.0? I cannot add Rosetta 2.0, Axu. Not even for you. So we play some Rosetta 2.0 Arasana after they ban World Tree. Koga's infected Axu with his Crim propaganda. Yeah, I mean, I'm like waiting for Koga to turn up at the next big event with like 68 card Rosetta as. We're playing against Architects of Tomorrow. We have limited icebreaker options. This is probably not good. I think I have to keep this opening hand because it has a prepaid and we're going to need money. They're also going to be on Ikawa. Well, I'm going to keep this. Yeah, 2 cores in a Fule meta. What could possibly go wrong? Who knows, eh? Who knows? I mean, we'll see. I'm just going to play like super, super fast. And we're going to try and land a like super early deep dive. We can also just click through some Biroids. Like we're going to burn them turn 2, but I'm just going to set up first. We're good against ice. Yeah. That's like exactly it. Oh, okay. Can I? Oh, I can do all of this. That's lovely. Look at that for a start. There we go. We got day laundry. That is like, it's kind of the ultimate. Like, oh yeah, we could play against ice. Let's just immediately immediately have someone queue into us with Hyperglacier. As long as this isn't a ginger. Actually, if this is a ginger in server 1, then I'm fine with that. Because if they put a ton of ice on server 1, then we're going to deep dive them and then we win. I'm happy with that. We could trick shot this. I don't super want to do that because they can res, unfortunately, both of these because they're Architects of Tomorrow. If we draw into a Muse, we'll trick shot. We didn't. We'll draw again. Now we draw into a Muse. We're like 1 click too late there, but we can trick shot next turn, assuming that this is probably just a Rashida, right? A Stegodon. Oh, don't start it. King said that he is available to be on WooTube if you're looking for quests. I haven't set up my headphones, so I can't get a guest on today, I don't think. Right, here we go. Now we can trick shot. We've not just got a Muse, but we've got a Muse and a Simmel chip, so we can pretty much deal with anything. No res. Interesting. Well, we'll steal that. That seems fine. We see an Eli. Let's try and remember that, Eli. And then we'll run server 1. We still have a Muse. Is this going to be, like, ganked? Do we want to propeller through this or just click through it? If we just go click, click, and this is a Managarm, we've got money for the Managarm. YouTube chat is on top of the log. I need to change this setting. Sorry. There we go. Okay. I think I just click through this. I'll be like ever so slightly upset if it's exactly a void. And I won't care about anything else, I don't think. We could bounce, but I want to use the money. Because I've got 4 credits. I guess if this is an Ikawa, I'd be upset. It's a Warroid tracker. This is a perfectly fair and normal card. So this other thing is trashable if they're resin that, so it's probably Rashida. So I think I'm going to get rid of the Warroid tracker first. I really wish I'd broken with Propeller now, because then I could just sell, like, trash the Propeller. We're going to deal with this Warroid, I think. I think we deal with this now before it gets, like, silly. We'll let them boost. We'll pay for. Oh. 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 Thinking. This is like pure grinder. I think I just have to leave that. No, I'm gonna trash it. Yeah. Okay. So we're against something. I don't know what, but something. So they're about to draw a 3rd Eli. So that's good to know. Is this not again? It might well be. I've played against Tang recently, and I think I've also played against a Fractal Threat Matrix recently. Oh, this is interesting. So that's probably Eli into something. I could dirty laundry it, but that feels a bit risky. So maybe I just dirty laundry. Oh, I could trick shot it. No, I'm just going to dirty laundry archives, and then we'll like get the propeller down because at the moment we know that there's stuff. We've got another muse in hand. We're going to get slightly too many muses in hand before we know it. Next turn we'll probably trick shot because they'll also probably install something in server 1. It's a real person. Wild Turtok thinks that Tang is a Cable Carnage or Tuno Smurf. I have a weird feeling that it's a Cable Smurf, but I don't know where I'm getting that from. I also immediately don't think that's the case if they're playing Fractal Threat Matrix. I can't see that being the case. What does Fractal Threat Matrix even achieve? Just like to purely grind us out, I think. We're gonna just break this. That leaves us some clicks to deal with stuff. Cable Carnage Smurfs respond to hi Dan in chat. Interesting. They're playing Z 2.0. Okay. So I have to read this. We don't want to let them trash a hardware. I think we just bypass this. Right? We'll muse. Z is still legal. Yeah. I was genuinely looking at it as an option for like we could put a botulus on it. I think we just Vasalem it. We'll like force them to we'll force them to purge. I was just thinking we could like botulus and then click, but I think we want at least a click left. Oh, we're still Illuminal. We're so good at this game. We run server 1. We run server 1. I think we just click through this because I want to keep these propeller tokens for at least one more run, probably like a burner run. We handily have exactly 1 click and potentially 2 credits left. They're on Trieste as well. Well, I guess we'd trash that. Now we just like need to land a deep dive and then we win. So now, there we go. There's our deep dive. We need some money. Yeah, I think they literally just went AOT, select all Biroids, and like go from there, right? Can we deep dive this turn? We can't deep dive this turn. We do not have enough money to. So let's draw 1. We got another trick shot. I mean, this card is busted. We could. I think I don't want to draw anymore. I want to just click for credits. Although, like, Burnering HQ. Burnering HQ is an option. Burner, click. I should have burned first click if I was going to do that. This is fine. We're like super ahead. Think how the meta is going to change with Dawn. No more AOT. There is no more tomorrow. Tomorrow has been they ice archives. Very rude. I mean, I don't necessarily think that Architects of Tomorrow is boring. It just unfortunately kind of generates a fairly boring playstyle. So maybe it is boring. Maybe that's what I'm saying. Um, it also means you like have to play Biroids, which you can always break. Right, let's just like see a 4-2 for the win in HQ and then trick shot it in. There's a 4-2 in HQ for the win. This doesn't end the run, so we'll just put. I think we put a hedge fund on the bottom. We'll put the architect's volume test on the top, and then we'll trick shot, which will give us enough money. Yeah. I guess like if this is exactly Trieste, then that's a shame. It looks like it's not exactly Trieste. It could be a spin doctor, and they're just waiting for us to run. There we go. See, Architects of Tomorrow game don't have to be long. They don't have to be long. Oh, and it was on Stegodon. Disgusting. Um, 12 minutes. Easy, easy does it. Told you we were good at breaking ice. Okay. Uh, would I have preferred bravados over hot pursuits in that one? Probably. Like, there's a chance they were on greasing the shot. Trick shot is kind of good. Okay, I've already said this before. I did undersell trick shot, and especially um, based on like how good it is compared to the other cards. Like we all talked up burner and how burner might be like absolutely ridiculous. Um, we saw some burners in the top cut of EMEA, but like definitely no one was on free burners. Moderate. However, we didn't see a single shaper who wasn't on free trick shots. Ag infusion. I did say we were good at breaking ice. We have a revolver to deal with Anansi. We have one revolver and 3 symbol chips and 3 muses to deal with Anansi. Okay. I mean, we definitely prefer bravado over hop shoot here, so that's good. It is like trick shot is goated. I've really got to. I think I just I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking when I stated that uh that I prefer, because I still think that overclock is really good, and if you're like overclocking out like breakers, you want to be able to do that anywhere, but it turns out that trickshot also helps you win the game whilst doing all that, and like allows you to do some absolutely bonkers plays. Yeah, I think I'm now fully in. Like trickshot might be one of the best cards from the set, and it was a good set, especially for shapers. It was a good set. Um, so that's saying something. Do we just? No, I don't think we do. I was going to say, do we just like barrel into some of this ice? But I think probably letting them res stuff is a bad idea. Is this going to be punitive ag? I don't. Whoa! Hold up! I didn't fight against trickshot. I said I didn't think it was as good as overclock. Now that's a very incredibly wrong take. I accept that now. Are we going to need a Unity this game? Maybe. But I'm going to install the symbol chip instead. Uh, I just, yeah. I actually wanted S tier. I'm still not totally sure it's S tier. I think it's at the very top of A plus tier. Like, yeah, I should have just. I think I was just trying to like bring it down from S tier, but there we go. This is a Charlotte or an NGO, right? Do we check it anyway? Let's draw once for like a Muse. That's not a Muse. Let's draw again for a Muse. That's not a Muse. Okay, I'm just gonna let them have it. If it's a Biovolt, I'm actually more upset. Slap Vandal is pretty bad in this matchup. Like, oh, it's just an NGO. Yeah, publishing your bad takes is whatever building, right? I can draw once and then barrel into this. Oh, and I have a Muse now. Okay. Well, that's good. So we can go. Let's see what we got. No action. Interesting. Where's the second EMEA video? The second EMEA video? I think we get rid of that while we're here. Oh, we've got another one. Let's run server 2. This looks like scoring Ag Infusion. Oh, right. Okay. Got you. So now we might Bravado HQ. Sure. Yeah, there's actually like, it's either that or just install this Unity. Maybe it is install the Unity. No, I'm just going to Bravado HQ. I think installing the Unity was probably the better plan. It's an enemy. We lost the Muse. That's slightly upsetting. We also lost the Pikachon, which is also slightly upsetting. Do we want to slap Vandal this? Can't work out if that's like... I guess then we keep... Sure, we'll slap Vandal it. They're on an enemy, so we're kind of assuming that they might be on Snare. But I think I'm going to take the risk. Yeah, installing Unity so that I could Bravado next turn. Okay, well, we have 17 credits. So if they have a hedge fund into punitive. But they're on I don't think they're a punitive deck, right? Because we've seen because they're probably on 4/2s. Because of the grid. I mean, Charlotte's great and worth playing anyway. We unfortunately lost our burner, which was like my intended play for next turn. Right, let's draw some cards. Diesel is a really good way of drawing some cards. Okay. Propeller's actually probably quite important. But I do want to get my prepaid value, so I'm just going to draw once and then play the creative. Okay, that's a nice hand for next turn. Apparently, it was not GG's. This is true. This is literally the only ice that Slap Vandal deals with. They trash it, unsurprise me. You just gave me the idea to build an Identity Crisis Crim Ari. Actually playing Maui. Ooh. Go catch some sleep, Wild Turtok. I will catch you again soon. I had the I should say I had the pleasure of commentating with Wild Turtok in one of the games. It was Kiko's game against Ryan Band Twins, and it was genuine pleasure commentating with them. Really, really fun. I think just like installing probably like the SMC. Uh, it's probably like the SMC symbol chip, then play the creative. I can still be a little slow here, I think, and hope. I guess if they start scoring like Nisei Mark IIs, then we're in trouble. They advance. Could be a biovault. I think we check archives here. We draw a card doing it. Feels good. We see a virus. It's good to know that there's one already in the bin. Trick shot is great for next turn. Let's go and check server 3 and run into a snare. Or an Urtica Cipher. We trash this, right? Just in case they're on, like, Trick of Light. Oh, I'm just going to leave it. And then we'll draw 2. Okay, we lost our trick shot. And we lost our propeller. And we're about to score a Sisyphus protocol. Okay. Naked Blankerska. Yeah. That is. I mean, to be fair, they don't have to pay any money for it. It obviously looks like a spin, so I'm gonna run it. That's hilarious. We can draw. Revolver is really important for us to get down. The question is whether we need any more money, and I kind of don't think we do, but maybe just this one. I think I shouldn't play this. I think like okay, we have a deep dive for next turn, so that's pretty sick. Unfortunately, we know they're on anemones, and we don't have Hush. But we probably go for at least one deep dive next turn. This is going to be a problem. Sisyphus versus Anansi's going to cost us all of our revolver. It's going to cost us our entire revolver. At least we know there's no Mavirus on board. Yeah, no worries. Right. It is the Anansi. So here we have to break it, and then we have to break it again, which is not great. So they're on any free credits. They can bounce us onto this. That's unfortunate. This could be a biovault. That would be the worst case scenario. We're gonna. This is gonna cost us. Yeah, but this is literally this is where we want to be on Eka and not Revolver. Because if we were on Eka, then this is actually like very easy to deal with. This is going to cost us an entire gun and a symbol. It's going to cost us 2 guns. Oh, but that makes everything a lot easier. So we should be able to land this deep dive now, assuming that this isn't exactly a biovault. Yeah, unsurprising. So we'd do this. That took 9 bullets. 9 bullets to shoot this sodding spider. I may have forgotten something. I forgot to put the Pika shot on the Anansi before we passed it. Oh, it's in the bin, so I needed to symbol chip it. Um, we might actually not be able to win now. uh, no. I would ask to redo, but I've now seen I accessed HQ. That was so unfortunate. Let's just run R&D, see if we get the win, and then draw a card. That can stay exactly where it is. It's a bad draw for them, I think. Spree unfortunately does not help us. We don't have Muse. We don't have Eka. Deep dive next turn. Yeah, but if they put a single piece of ice, they have money now. What are they drawing into? Moonpool. We just have to challenge. Can Botulus? Yes. We could do. We could Botulus. Yeah, that's actually like a pretty good plan. Get some counters on it now. Okay, that looks like the Moonpool. I think we have to get the Botulus now. Otherwise, this Nancy is going to be a problem. So I think we run R&D first. We can break the Nancy twice because of a revolver and the Botulus. We can muse the Picachon. Very nice. Yes, indeed. Okay. Do we actually run? No, we don't run our archives first because there's a sodding virus in there. The problem is, so we can. Of course, it's a sodding costume. Why do I not have a muse in this deck? Who decided to let me play this without a muse? Thinking. Okay. So, what happens here? Hush is, in fact, really good. So what? So when I, yeah, I do mean Hush. I absolutely mean Hush. When I, what? How does this? How does Sisyphus and Conjin work? Oh, how do a 5/2 and Pikachu? First time I pass a recipe, you may pay one. I encounter that ice again. That's hilarious. I think I'd actually do it both. Yes, I for Salem. Very good. Very good. So we do a muse. We'll go to our stack. We'll get a Physalum on here. Unfortunately, this is not going to be the first Kogate or Sentry we pass, so that's a shame. Nicely, we pay 0 to bypass because there's no subs. Oh, apparently we don't pass it twice. Lacosta can stay where it is. Okay. Now we have to run archives, right? Which unfortunately purges. Which purges. No, but that's fine. It's fine as long as we don't need 2 clicks for the deep dive. So now we run archives. If they pop us onto HQ, it's actually better for us. Like the boop to HQ works out better. How ridiculous is that right now? Their correct thing. No, not HQ first cursor, because then they can boop us. I guess we could simul chip the Pikachu, so that's fine. But I want to force the boop. Because they want to boop here, yeah, but this is actually better for us. This is way better that they do it in this order. So we're gonna like break this, and then match strength and break this, and then we can still throw the gun to completely break it for the second time. I don't know where the lemsip stops and the aggressive political propaganda starts. Amazing. And then we'll match strength. We'll break. We need to do this in the right order. That one. That one. We'll break by throwing the gun. We'll continue. We see the one card in hand. Hopefully it's not a snare. They can't afford a snare, so that's fine. We then run archives. We lose our Fasalum Entangler, but hopefully we win. Any minute now, we will run archives. Moonpool. What's happening with the Moonpool? Oh, they had an agenda in archives. Sick. They had a Fuji in archives. Okay, Mavirus. I'm assuming they purge. And then hopefully, got 31 cards. We're going to see 7. There are actually not a ton of agendas left. We see a send a message. Considering how cursed this matchup could have been, that went pretty well. Toxic GG. What's so toxic about that? Oof. Maybe I should have trashed that Moonpool. Yeah, that was hella good, fam. Like this deck is fun. We haven't got to play a spree yet, so I will play at least one more, probably just one more, because when you get to pop a spree off with this deck, it absolutely pops off. I said GG, but really it was BG. We're playing against Jank Techie. Assuming they're a Jin Techie player? Oh, they're not. They're playing Ob. Do we like this opening hand? Not massively. I kind of like Bravado against Ob, because I like challenge early. We are Spree in Source. How you doing? So far we haven't played a Spree, but in the games where I've played it like off stream, it's so good. It's like so fun. This is the deck, which I probably need to move my face a little bit so that you can see. Let's do that quickly. Just bought your Bristol regional ticket? Hell yeah. I am psyched that so many people are have bought tickets in advance. It also massively helps me out. Oh, we've got a fun opening play of Anicam prepaid Dirty Laundry, which is nice. Looks like it's going to be into archives, unfortunately, but that's fine. But yeah, super psyched that you're coming down, Source. That's great news. Oh no, we can't do this unless we take a credit as well. I think it's worth it. Kind of gets our engine rolling, and then next turn we can play a gamble, right? Unless I've done the maths wrong. Like, we don't have a ton of econ in this deck, so we do need to like play the people. 31 people registered going on the ABR. More importantly than that, I believe 30 tickets actually sold. Like, I know, Netrunner players buying tickets in advance. If you do want to come, I would highly advise that you buy tickets before they all sell out. We can draw, we can draw, we can draw. Diesel's great. And potentially the reason that so many people have bought tickets in advance is there is a super sick crocheted Arasana frog that you can win if you buy tickets in advance. This server looks cursed. Venue cap is actually, so the new venue which I've got is actually huge. The issue more is tables. I have set the cap to 50. If things go crazy, then I will talk to the other regionals people about other options. Here, I think we spend 2 clicks. And then we'll see this card first. A Malapert. Are we trashing both of these? I think so. Like, apart from anything, I just don't want them to have anything that they can easily extract. And then we'll definitely trash this skunk. Don't want that around. We draw a muse. I think I'm just going to take some credits. Is that frog for Bristol Regionals? Yes, for Southwest Regionals, which is Bristol Regionals. So if you are coming and you have a ticket, then you are in with a chance of winning it. It's a raffle indeed. So I'm going to raffle it off. But to be in with a chance of winning it, you have to have bought a ticket in advance. That's the score. That's what we're dealing with. Do I barrel into HQ assuming that it is... I don't think I want to hit either an Afshar or a Winchester, so I think I'm going to go R&D here. Yeah, it's not a prize for like winning the event. You win the incredibly sick playmat, which Toby has designed for us for winning, or in fact for just coming in top 8. Do I care about this? Nah, you can have your money for this one. Then what do we do? I'm almost tempted to throw out a diesel here. Oh, and indeed, first place also gets a free ticket to UK Nats. We could now check HQ. That's very tempting because we can muse through anything now. I mean, I'm saying that. There's a couple things. Renee, it was excellent to meet you. Real pleasure. And thank you for joining the stream. Is this going to be a Managon, which I can't deal with? Let's see a card from hand. They must be flooded by now. Atlas seems good. Hollow Man. Oh, I'm a virus. Oh, even better. Ooh, they didn't pop that. I guess there's nothing really good. Well, I'm kind of glad we didn't. They wouldn't have had the money to do it anyway. We'd probably just put down this revolver. Seems okay. I'm just sad I don't have a better chance of winning the frog than 1 in 50. Well, it might not be 1 in 50. It depends how many people buy tickets in advance. Cursor coming in with the the hot takes there. Let's Rivado HQ. I think they're probably still flooded, right? And we can still break anything that I really care about. Envelopment. Do I really care about it? No, I think I just bounce off that. Annoyingly, I don't have Hush to deal with this border control. That's a shame. Vacuum fire. Now, the big question is, so here I need my propeller. Maybe I just like slap vandling a border control feels like quite cursed. Especially when I'm not going to be able to use the credits elsewhere. But maybe it's correct. Like, what else am I doing here? Like, installing a Unity? Like, I've got money. Am I really throwing out a diesel? Like, no chance. I'm just going to run archives in case they're, like, so flooded that they're pitching stuff. Image of a dog sitting at a table, a fire raging around him. This is fine. It does feel a little that way. Unfortunately, our HQ multi-access is burner, so maybe I want to get them to pop this border control sooner rather than later, you know? Like, that might make sense. They've had to throw out a half run already. So I think I just, like, install a Muse to get a propeller. And then next turn, we, like, trick shot. And then I can also deal with the envelopment after I trick shot. That means I'm possibly throwing out this diesel. I'm probably throwing out the overclock, right? Oh, no worries. Um, so I'm just gonna like install a Muse to get a propeller. And then I think it's throwing out the overclock. Although now I'm like slightly less rich. Yeah, the classic playing that runner at work. I think I can throw out the diesel. That's probably incorrect. That can't be correct. Throwing out Unity seems wrong. Throwing out Deep Dive seems wrong, but we are going to draw into more. I'm going to throw out like the overclock gets us into HQ next turn. I'm going to throw out the diesel and regret it. That's the best thing I can do here is throw out diesel and regret my life decisions. Then next turn we can like start. Okay, maybe we start with an overclock now. I was going to say maybe we start with with a trick shot, but I think starting with overclock seems like it makes more sense now that we have a remote to challenge as well. Oh, I popped this before we were talking about regionals. Makes me realise it's very soon now, and I still have no clue what to play. Okay, are we running this server? I think we are running this server. Possibly getting a slap vandal for this Afshar and just losing the money. Or we just straight up install the Unity from hand, which is like pretty baller. Yeah, that's probably incorrect. But I think we do want to deal with this. Do we want to Fasalim through it? I don't think so. I think we just slap Vandal through it. So we'll go Muse. Stack. Slap Vandal. And then break. And the answer of what to play fix is you should probably play R plus because you love R plus. I don't know what R plus does right now, but I've seen the light and I will be playing Bankar Steve. I do not blame you. Bankar Steve, Bankar Steve is so fun. So fun. Wall to wall. I think we trash that because they're in a like real bad spot in terms of like money and stuff. And again, I just don't want to have them to have anything to deal with. We probably I might check what that is on R&D because it could well be like a virus, and then we can trash it before they can trash it. Um, you got intercons, yeah. You might see something spicy, yeah, true. Um, and then you can hostile seems good. Chrysium. Hmm. Think we check HQ, right? What's it cost us to get in here? Like some of our counters, which is annoying. We are keeping. We are all keeping. We all. That should say we are all keeping real deck secret for intercons. I something like that. Yeah, I assume that extremely average sports have got something absolutely ridiculous. Have they popped something this turn? They popped a border control this turn, right? And then break the end run, the end run, the end run. Done. Um, Maybe I should have kept this overclock to deal with the Chrysium, bearing in mind that I'm a sodding deep dive deck. We still an Azef, so that's fine. And then we just go back to HQ and win the game? No. Um, Koga, what would you be playing if you were at Intercons? Like Zero Steve? You still on the Zero Steve train? Or would you be turned to the dark ways of Bankar? So this is probably a sandstone. I think we run R&D first click. I was going to say that overclock had Christian written all over it. Yeah, it probably did, and actually I'd have got full value off that. I'm gonna run R&D first click because I'm not scared of nothing. Knife Sable and Essa are both still tempting. I think Essa is like super tempting. And like everyone's talking about Two Nose Ob, uh, understandably. Seamless in hand. Okay. No action on the Christian. Let's run HQ, force them to res what is probably a sandstone. We'd love a spree in hand right now. It's an Afshar, that's why we'd love a spree. So we can break this if we want. Do we think we're going to win this turn? So we install a unity, it costs us 3. We break for 1 and lose 2. I think we win this turn if we do this, so I think we go for it. So we'll just go like unity from hand. We'll break. If we end the run, we'll let that fire. Continue to movement. I think there's probably even one in hand. We might just nab it here. Yeah. We still didn't get to play a sodding spree. Of all the games in Netrunner, that was indeed one of the games of all time. Yeah, fair. Envelopment on HQ feels super rough. Oh, that wasn't even a mulligan. Wow, I didn't notice that. They must have just drawn into agendas like crazy. Uh, Good night, not ESE. Uh, I will see you in a few weeks, if not before. I won't be seen before. Yeah, apparently it turns out we don't be spraying sauce. I'm really sorry. Uh, their thought was 2 ice and only 1 agenda isn't a terrible starting hand. Yeah, I know that feeling. If anyone wants to see that feeling, you can go and find Koga's Twitch stream. And on Koga's Twitch stream somewhere, you'll find a game of him versus me from Worlds 2020, where he just leelers me to death in like 3 turns. It's like 3 minutes long, and it's like hilariously brutal. I just saw a screenshot of a 5 agenda opening hand into spin dogs it into 2 more. I think I had one of those on the startup tour on the Sunday. I was playing against Alex, teammate, and I took a mulligan, and I was playing R plus, like a kind of king making R plus in startup, and I mulliganed into 3 superconducting hubs and 1 off-world office, and I think 1 piece of ice. And then I drew about 3 or 4 more agendas in the next like 2-3 turns, including a spin doctor, which just drew me into 2 agendas. So I was like, well, I can chuck 2 agendas in the bin, but it's not going to get far. And Alex installed a Hermes like turn 2. I was like, this game is this is such a non-game. It's kind of ridiculous. Right. With that in mind, we got to fire off 0 sprees, but the deck did go 3 games, no losses. So busted deck. Like, seems good enough for me. I can't get my thing to move. There we go. That's what we ended up on. It should have a hush. We found out it should have a hush. It should maybe have an Eca instead of a revolver, but the revolver felt okay. Um, but we could play like third revolver, one Eca. Might just be better. Anyway, that's everything for now. If you are coming to, or if you haven't got a ticket yet, get a ticket for Southwest Regionals in Bristol. It's at Sparks, new venue, right near the old venue. So if you're coming there, don't worry, you're right around the corner from it. And until then, or next week, I will see you then, or next week.